Now, I had a pretty decent game week in Game Week 10, scored 57 points, and I'm finally in the top 100k. And here are my transfer plans for Game Week 11. All right, just a quick canter through my team then as it got on in Game Week 10. So, Flecken in goal. I was watching the Fulham-Brentford game. I tweeted actually saying that one of the worst things in the world in FPL is watching a game and your only hope is that a team keeps a clean sheet. And of course they didn't. They didn't just concede once either. Harry Wilson scored a brace entirely in added time. So, Flecken was on for, I think, a 12-pointer. And I was looking at my live rank. It was 60k overall. I was like, wow, this is going to be a really good game week. And then he goes on to concede 2 in the next 5 minutes. But I wasn't resting on my laurels with that rank, you know. I fully accepted that they could concede. But yeah, it's just disappointing still for it to happen. You can also see there on my bench, I've got Ola Aina of Nottingham Forest who got 15 points. But I think going back to my decisions pre the deadline, I wouldn't have changed anything with this team. I was happy to roll my transfer, which I did. I've gone from 2 to 3 free transfers now for Game Week 11. And starting 8 Nori, who has scored, I think, 3 goals so far this season, Guardiola and Lewis as well, over Aina, I think, sort of made sense. You know, Aina is not one of the most attacking defenders by any stretch. He even said himself the only reason he took a shot to score that goal was because he was tired. So, yeah, 15 points, sat on my bench. Yeah, if Brentford kept a clean sheet and I started Aina, what kind of rank would I be? I'd love to know that in the comments if anyone could work it out. Rodgers, Palmer, and Mbumo and Salah in midfield. Morgan Rodgers continues to just be an absolute legend. There was a little bit of doubt around his minutes going into the game week, and he did get subbed off early with, well, he looked like he had a bit of an ankle injury. He really wanted to carry on, but he got subbed off. I'll talk a little bit about Rodgers in a second because he could well be a doubt for Game Week 11. But yeah, we just simply don't have enough information at this stage. Cole Palmer, yeah, he blanked against Man United. Didn't really look to be all that much in the game, to be honest, but I'll let him off for one game. I don't think I'm going to get rid of Cole Palmer. And Mbumo, I don't really think you can class... Can you class a 3-pointer as a blank? Well, Palmer also got a bonus point, right? Obviously, Mbumo with a 3-pointer because the clean sheet was in hand for Brentford when he got subbed off. In fact, without talking too much about actual... Well, yeah, I don't want to go too much into football theory or whatever, but I absolutely hate it when football managers sub off a player, like their prime attacker, for a defender when they're only 1-0 up. I absolutely hate that when a manager tries to protect a 1-0 lead because it just completely stifles the team. And for the last, 15, 20 minutes of the game, Brentford were just sitting back, just getting shots left, right and centre for Fulham and just trying to block them. And it was only a matter of time before a couple of them squeezed through, which is exactly what happened. So I'm a little bit upset about Thomas Frank, to be honest, because I think he cost me my Flecken clean sheet. And if he kept Mbumo on, he could have got an attack in return and Brentford could have won the game and kept a clean sheet. Anyway, I picked Salah as my captain, which I'm really chuffed with. I think, really, my secret to having this rank at the stage of the season that we're at the moment is I've just had the best captain every game week. I've had either Salah or Haaland as my captain week on week, and I've not been afraid to rotate it. So for 3 or 4 game weeks this season, I've captained Salah, and it's always paid off for me, which I'm fully aware is obviously luck-based as well. But I've created that luck by making sure I have the player who is the best captain in my team, if that makes sense. Not a lot of people, I don't think, had both Salah and Haaland in their team since the start of the season. So I think that's what's probably given me the edge. And also Chris Wood, who came up with another goal in Game Week 10. I've had him on my wildcard since Game Week 6. And yeah, I'm just really pleased with him. I think that makes 22 goals in 30 Premier League appearances, his last 30 Premier League appearances now for Chris Wood. Yeah, what a player, what a man. He is massively overperforming his underlying numbers, though. That is something to bear in mind. He's one of the top players in the league at the moment for performance against his XG. But that's not just this season. That continues into last season as well. So I just think it suggests that Chris Wood is an absolutely elite finisher. Raul Jimenez, I'll talk a little bit about him later on. I've had him in my team for a couple of weeks since I did my 4 transfers to get rid of the likes of Eze and Solanke. Obviously, Solanke scored a brace and got an assist in Game Week 10. And his replacement, Raul Jimenez, has blanked in 2 games for me. And actually, he put up his worst XGI since he's been in the Fulham starting 11 in that game. And yeah, Muniz came on in his place. I'm a little bit concerned about Raul Jimenez. I still think he's going to start for Fulham, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I don't think he's in that purple patch anymore. But anyway, we'll talk about him in a second. And then Erling Haaland, who continues to blank in my team, but I didn't have him as captain. I just wanted to interrupt myself to ask you, if you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel. It's obviously completely free, and I think 75% of people that watch this channel are not currently subscribed. So if you could subscribe, it would mean the world to me. I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers before the next international break, so at the end of game week 11. I think it's possible. You can see my countdown there as to how close I am. If you can help me get towards that, I'd be really grateful. So yeah, hit subscribe down below. All right, back to the video. So I'll just take a bit more of a forward look at my team. So this is how things stack up for game week 11 and for the next 3 game weeks. Obviously, game week 11 is the week before an international break. And I always say with free transfers, I'm always cautious about using too many before an international break, because there are just so many unknowns that could happen. And a lot of these players in my team are going to be playing for their respective nations. So yes, I might want to sell these players, or some of these players, and consider bringing them out, and I'll talk to you about what I'm going to do. But the overriding kind of feeling with making transfers is just to proceed with caution before an international break, particularly if you're selling a player that doesn't play for an international team for a player that does. That's a risky, in my mind, that's quite a risky transfer to be making the week before an international break. So here's how we're lining up, and I've got to be honest, the starting 11 wise, I don't think I'm going to do any changes from my bench to attack. I think the starting 11, sorry, the starting 11 that I can field is the strongest possible, right? There's no change from the bench basically. A few players that I am potentially worried about though. Number 1 is Flecken. He has not kept a clean sheet yet so far this season, and what I've got here is a view of the best goalkeepers for expected points according to Fantasy Football Hub for the next 5 game weeks. Flecken appears amongst these guys, but the keeper that I do really have my eye on is the top scoring goalkeeper in the game last season, Jordan Pickford. He's gone up to 4.9 million now, so I wouldn't be able to buy him with just one transfer. I would have to work out a way to bring some cash into my team. But I just don't like having Flecken in my team anymore. You know, he gets consistent saves, yes, don't get me wrong, but it's been 10 fixtures in the league now, and Brentford have failed to keep a clean sheet. And I'm pretty sure in all of their games so far this season, all of them, they've conceded over 1 or literally 0.9 expected goals. So it's not just the fact they've been unlucky, you know, conceding low XG chances. They're a pretty weak defence, and kind of had enough of looking at Flecken in my team, to be honest, never keeping a clean sheet. So he could potentially go, and I've just explained there what I'm going to do with that. Got Aït-Nouri, Rico Lewis and Guardiola at the back. I think Aït-Nouri and Guardiola are absolutely fine. Aït-Nouri might well be on 4 yellow cards, but you can see there I've got Aina on my bench to cover, you know, if he did eventually get it. And just taking him out before the international break just doesn't seem worth it, right? There's, with the news we have so far at least, there's no doubt that he's not going to start. I think he's going to play in game week 11. And it's Southampton at home, which is obviously a plum fixture. If Wolves were to ever keep a clean sheet in the Premier League, Southampton at home, I'd suggest, is one of the games where that's probably most likely. So I'm very happy to have him. And of course, all the attacking returns he brings. The one defender that I do need to talk about, I think, is Rico Lewis. He'll have, I believe he's got a Champions League fixture midweek. And he didn't start in game week 10, did he? And Pep Guardiola said that Rico Lewis is the one player that he cannot rest, and he rested him in game week 10. So just something to bear in mind there. And also, I'd say with Rico Lewis, regardless of the role position he's played in, he's just not gotten any attacking returns, has he? Whereas Guardiola, he has. He's got 3 goals so far this season. Obviously, I'm very happy with Guardiola, but Rico Lewis, he's a minute stout. Man City, they didn't really barely keep clean sheets. And he doesn't really get any attacking returns. And he's got Brighton, Tottenham, Liverpool coming up. Games where he could conceivably concede goals in. There you go, that was hard to say. Do you know what I mean? And I bought him for 4.6 million, I believe. So I could see to make some profit on him. And just looking at cheap defenders around his price point, people are gonna hate me for saying this, right? But one player that is potentially emerging to me is Reece James. Now, I still don't think he's played enough games in sequence, if that's the right word, enough games in a row consecutively. That was the word I was looking for. I don't think he's played enough games consecutively yet for me to think that he has gotten over those injury issues. Whether he ever will is still open to debate, I guess. But like I said, my whole comment about not wanting to make too many transfers before the international break, I don't think I'm going to sell Rico Lewis this week. But if there's any, risk of his minutes or he gets injured for England or something like that post-international break, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I really do think I could be going for Reece James. Chelsea do have a really rather nice fixture run from game week 12 onwards. A couple of tough ones mixed in there, but they are pretty decent fixtures. And I don't know, I just feel like Reece James is going to be the starting Chelsea right back in the Premier League. It seems to be that way. 0.5% ownership. We all know the attacking threat that he can possess. I do believe under Enzo Maresca that Chelsea have improved a lot, and they are a team that can actually keep clean sheets. And actually, just going back to my goalkeeper as well, a potential replacement for Flecken that didn't appear on the top goalkeepers list. Once the fixtures turn for Chelsea, I actually think Rob Sanchez could be a fairly decent replacement for Flecken as well. So, Sanchez for Flecken, Reece James for Lewis, something I'm potentially considering doing in the future. I don't think I'm going to do it, though, in game week 11. All right, so one of the other big points of debate at the moment is what do we do with Erling Haaland? And people that regularly watch my channel are probably bored. Yeah, just absolutely bored out of their mind. I was going to swear then, but I don't think I can do that on this video. They're going to be absolutely bored out of their mind about me talking about the criteria for getting rid of Haaland. But this is what I'm going to do with him. So it's a slightly different take on what I've been saying before. I think I'm going to keep him, just to summarize. Straight in there, I'm going to keep him because it all depends, in my mind, it all depends on captaincy as to whether you want to keep Haaland or not, right? If you, in your opinion, do not believe that he's the best captain in the next 3-4 game weeks, there's a genuine case to sell him. No doubt in my mind, sell him. If you don't believe he's the best captain, sell him, because the only reason to have a player of that price in your team is if you're going to captain them regularly. And I think he is the outstanding captaincy pick in game week 11. Over and above Son, who I would probably respect and appreciate as likely the second or third best captaincy option. He's got the best fixture on here, but just with him dealing with a bit of an injury, missing some games, playing limited minutes in game week 10, and he didn't look fully at it either in the game. Obviously, Tottenham won the game after he got subbed off, so I have a little bit of doubt with Son in that regard. And then when it comes to Haaland, I think Kevin De Bruyne is going to be back for the weekend. He was on the bench in game week 10. I don't think he featured at all, but he was on the bench. And that, for me, having Kevin De Bruyne in the team is the key for Haaland getting service and scoring goals, because Kevin De Bruyne is the best creator in world football, right? And whether or not he directly passes to Haaland or just creates, is the assist to the assist of Haaland, stuff like that, that's what Kevin De Bruyne adds to the team. And Brighton, without Lewis Dunk, they play a super high line. I know it's the away fixture, but I just think Haaland's the best captain in game week 11. And I also think there's a little bit of a bonus to just keeping him in the fact he's never going to be a differential, but I'll get a little boost on the managers that do sell him if he performs well. And the captaincy alternative, Salah, is in my team. So even if I don't captain Salah, I'll still get his points, and the risk of that backfiring on me will kind of, it will just be lessened. And I don't think Son is going to be all that popular in game week 11, which might mean if you're looking for a differential captain, you could go for Son. So yeah, the whole debate of selling Haaland or not, first of all, one of the reasons I'm not going to do it is because I think my team is good enough. I don't think, I'm going to talk about the midfield and I could potentially get rid of Rodgers, but that's because he's an injury doubt, not because he's not performing. And there are plenty of players around Rodgers' price that are really good, so it's not like I need to desperately upgrade him because there's no other options around his price. You see what I mean? So for me, I think I'm going to keep hold of Erling Haaland, and I actually believe he's the best captain for game week 11. So I mentioned about potentially replacing Morgan Rodgers in my team, and we need a little bit more news from Aston Villa as to whether he's fit or not. I believe he will be. He really tried and looked okay to carry on in the game in game week 10, but yeah, he did get subbed off. Villa have there's Champions League football midweek. We might get some news before the deadline anyway on his fitness. So, the jury's out on whether Rodgers is going to play. So I have to, at this stage of the week, in my video, I kind of have to play it just safely and say, if he is fit and looks like he's 90% to play, I'm going to keep hold of him. If that ankle injury does look to be quite bad, for me, it's an easy swap to Antoine Semenyo. So what I've got here is a ranking of the best cheap midfielders in the game. So midfielders below 7 million, ranked by expected points over the next 5 game weeks, right? I couldn't afford to straight swap Rodgers for Brennan Johnson or Garnacho. I simply don't have the ability to, but I can for Semenyo. And Semenyo, he looks absolutely electric. He looked really good against Man City, obviously scored a goal. And the next 5 fixtures, I think, are really good. You know, Bournemouth, I was going to say Tottenham, then Bournemouth have had a really poor fixture run over the last 2 or 3 game weeks. But that's ended now. He's got 5 really good games. I think he ranks 2nd in the Premier League for total shots taken. He's a really dangerous player. And, you know, it's quite simple for me, really. If Morgan Rodgers is confirmed to be out, I'll simply straight swap him for Semenyo. And another added thing to that as well, Rodgers has Liverpool away, who are obviously very tough and resolute defensively. So, you know, it's not a good fixture either. So if there was ever a game for Rodgers probably not to perform in and potentially blanking it, it could well be that one. And yeah, if that is the case, just swap him for Semenyo. I'm trying not to get, well, voice crack then. I'm going to leave that in. I'm trying not to get too reactive about Raul Jimenez because he's put up, I've put up the numbers here just from the FPL website. In the last 5 games, he's put up really, really strong underlying numbers. So it's not just like a case of flukiness that his either finishing has just been like exceptional. In some cases it has, he has overperformed his XG. But it's not like an absolute fluke that he had a good run of games, right? He's a proven Premier League goal scorer in seasons gone by, post obviously that head injury, and he has taken a little while to get back up to that level of confidence where he's playing with what looks like just complete normality now. But the game against Brentford, he was just completely missing. He didn't have I don't think he had a shot. 0.08 XG, 0.01 expected assists, 0.09 expected goal involvement. He went completely missing in that game, right? And I do worry that the run of 5 games beforehand was just a little purple patch. And I don't like picking players that are on purple patches because they're never good long-term picks. I think back to Fulham striker last season, Muniz, who obviously had a great time of it, but it's very much a purple patch because this season he's just been woeful. So I am cognizant and just bearing that in mind. But the good thing is, the next 2 fixtures for Jimenez, you couldn't really ask for a whole lot better. Crystal Palace and Wolves, 2 of, I would say, the worst teams in the league at the moment. Couldn't really ask for much better in terms of fixtures. So yes, I'm mindful of the fact that that game against Brentford was woeful, and he could well be at the end of his purple patch of 5 games that you can see there. So I'm thinking about that, but I'm not necessarily going to do anything rash and get rid of him because I think he's still going to play in Game Week 11. And I also, just after Fulham had their last penalty, which Andreas Pereira missed, and missed terribly as well, I think Jimenez is going to be on penalties. So I'm going to keep hold of them with that in mind. But I am conscious that, you know, it could be a purple patch that's on its way out. But unfortunately, I'm looking at the other cheap forwards in the game, and I believe I bought Jimenez for 5.6, 5.7 million. He's gone up a lot in price since I bought him. I'd really want, if there was one player to get in, it would be Cunha, and I just can't get to him with the budget I've got. If I just go back to my team at the moment, I've got 0.3 million in the bank. So in order to go up to 6.6 million Cunha, he might have even gone up again at the time that this video comes out. I'd have to do something quite drastic with my team. And I'm just not sure. Yeah, I'm just not sure that I can do that at the moment. So I'm going to keep hold of Raul Jimenez for the time being, but he's definitely a player I am considering selling if, you know, it does look like he's at the end of his purple patch. Also, I've just flicked to the same screen again. I noticed that Cole Palmer is flagged in the game at the moment. One thing to bear in mind, I'm not too worried about that at this stage, though. I think he'll be fine. Arsenal at home is not the best fixture, but Arsenal have proven that they're not all that good defensively, certainly in their last sort of 5 or 6 Premier League game weeks. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that at this stage. But, yeah, if Palmer does look to be injured, that's a problem I'm going to have to deal with. But for now, I'm trusting in the fact that he'll probably be fine and ready to go in Game Week 11. All right, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. I'm conscious I have a good rank at the moment, right, 97k, but I'm trying not to get too carried away with it. Yes, it's in the thumbnail because I think people might want to be interested in seeing someone with a decent rank at this stage of the season and what they're doing with their team, right? But I'm really not trying to get carried away with things, and I'm conscious that, you know, to get to this rank at Game Week 11 has involved me making some good picks, but also luck, right? There are some much better FPL managers than me that are in the millions in terms of rank at the moment. So you know, I don't think my rank is entirely skill-based by any stretch of the imagination, right? So I just want to put that out there. It's obviously a marketing point for the video, and people will be interested to see it, but I want to just share that I'm really well aware that I don't need to I shouldn't get too carried away with it, is what I'm trying to say, and I'm really not. So, you know, by trying to be cool and calm about my team, not making any quick rush transfers before international break, etc., I think is probably the sensible and safe way to play it, rather than chasing points and really trying to climb the leaderboard. Because I said this actually on FPL's live stream on Saturday night, which he kindly invited me to. The only rank that matters is the rank that you're in at Gameweek 38. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that will appear in your history, and, you know, could be the prizes that you win. So that's all that matters, and I'm very conscious of that. So yeah, I just wanted to put that in there as a little caveat. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments, you know, if you've got any other suggestions for my team that I didn't mention there. I'd be interested to hear it in the comments. And finally, if you're new around here or enjoyed the video and want to stick around, I think 75% of people that watch this channel have not currently subscribed. So please, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. All right, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.